to the inside, intercepted Alabama, touchdown run.
And everything college and high school sports. Now, let's join Andy, Brett, Randy, and Luke for this edition of Sports Blitz Live.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Sports Blitz Live. Luke Robinson flying solo for just a minute. Hopefully I have a co-host here in a second or two. Tons to talk about, no matter if I got a co-host or not. I mean, this past weekend was unbelievable. Can college football deliver any more than it did for us this past weekend? I'm talking about from Thursday to last night. Even though last night ended up being a blowout until right after halftime, it was pretty doggone close and very compelling. But, man, there were so many fantastic games. Of course, we're going to talk Alabama and Auburn for sure. A lot to dissect from those two programs this past weekend. We can also talk some high school. Lots to go on, lots to discuss there. Benjamin Russell gets another win. They just keep rolling along. They're finally ranked. That is something that I don't think any of us really foresaw coming this year. And this team just keeps exceeding expectations. And it's a lot of fun to watch. Of course, there's some other teams in action. Clay Chalkville keeps rolling along. Hoover gets back on the winning side. So lots to discuss there with high school football. Playoff expansion. If you watch the program, you know this is something that I'm not necessarily for, but I'm willing to embrace it. It's going to happen whether I want it to or not, so I might as well get used to it. And we're going to probably go on to 12 teams. I suspect this will happen sooner rather than later. Right now it's scheduled to be in 2026. I'm guessing it'll end up being in 2024, which also means that Texas and Oklahoma come on over to the SEC a little bit sooner. NFL gets started this Thursday night. That's going to be a lot of fun with the Bills taking on the Rams, a game a lot of people thought would end up being the Super Bowl. And so that one's going to be a lot of fun for sure. You get to see some other guys out there like Julio Jones with his new team catching passes from Tom Brady, hopefully. You get to see Tua Tagovailoa. How will he be now that he's got a coach that's a little bit more willing to use him efficiently? So many things we can discuss. The Braves keep winning. I'm not the biggest fan in the world. Again, if you watch this program, you know that. But the Mets, it's not like they're falling apart. The Braves just, every time I look at the scores from the previous night, the Braves just always seem to win. So I think we need to start, though, with Alabama and Auburn. I'd really rather wait for high school for Brett to get here because I think Brett would have a lot to add as the play-by-play guy for the Benjamin Russell Wildcats. And I really just want to start with Alabama and Auburn, but maybe as the SEC as a whole. I thought the league really showed out this past weekend. I know LSU lost. I know they looked really bad doing it, frankly. But was that not the best, worst game you've ever watched? Was the fourth quarter just not everything you want, just total mayhem? And then, of course, go all the way back to Thursday night. Pittsburgh and West Virginia, the backyard brawl, that game was fantastic. Penn State and Purdue, that game was fantastic. And one thing that I kept thinking about in the midst of all this college football expansion talk and about how, you know, the teams don't care and if you don't expand, it's really going to kill the sport, blah, blah, blah. Those three games that I just mentioned, Purdue, Penn State, Pitt, West Virginia, LSU, Florida State, none of those teams are going to the playoff, but they just were out there laying it on the line, and they made mistakes. But that's okay, and it was just a fun watch. I think the moral of the story is it's okay to still have a fun game and to have two teams go out there and put their hearts on the line and it not mean it's for a championship. That's how college football always had been for the longest time, that, you know, the rivalry meant something. You know, whether Alabama and Auburn weren't in the championship talk numerous years, yet the Iron Bowl was as hotly contested as any game there ever was. That year, whatever year you want to pick out. You want to tell me there was a more hotly contested, intense game than the 97 Iron Bowl, than the 1989 Iron Bowl, than the 94 Iron Bowl? These games didn't have a ton on the line when it comes to national championship picture. But they, as far as we are concerned, the fans in this state especially, I mean, you're just not going to top it. And what I'm concerned about now is that we've gone into a society where it's, you know, Talladega Nights. You're either first or you're first loser if you're second place. And It doesn't have to always be like that. It's okay to build a program. And I think that's one thing LSU fans need to understand. Brian Kelly's got to build a program. He's got to reinvent the culture in Baton Rouge. Yeah, I know it was an ugly loss. I know, frankly, they should have lost that thing 3 times before they actually had the extra point blocked. But they ended up having it blocked, which is one of the silliest ways to lose a ball game. But they got to change the culture over there. And I think Brian Kelly deserves some time, but there are already people saying, I'm tired of this Brian Kelly experiment. You've had him one game. You had him one game against a quality Power 5 opponent. I mean, Florida State's certainly not going to win the championship either, but they're still a Power 5 program that is historically very good, and they got dudes that'll play on Sundays. And you're already wanting to get rid of him? It doesn't make sense to me. Give him a little bit of time. Going back to Alabama and Auburn, speak a little bit more on Alabama. Obviously, I was able to watch both games, at least most of the Auburn game. It was better that they had a rain delay so I could squeeze all of both games in as much as I could. But I'll tell you, Alabama 55-0 over Utah State. I thought it was the perfect game for Coach Nick Saban. These are the kind of games that he wants to have, where you beat somebody decisively, yet you have a lot to pick apart. Look, first of all, let's go ahead and say this. Utah State is not some pussycat of a team. They're Mountain West Conference defending champs. They've got some dudes on that squad. They had Xavier Williams, who transferred in from Alabama. They got some dudes, and they're not a bad team at all. And Alabama absolutely shut them down. They got no sacks. They had very few tackles for loss. They created no turnovers, Alabama's defense, yet they only surrendered about 140 yards plus or minus, and 21 of those yards came on the very first play. So what that tells you is they literally put up a brick wall. And when you consider that Alabama also had a punt blocked that was deep in their own territory, and they still gave up no points, I think that says a lot about this defense right now. I'm not going to worry too much about the lack of turnovers or the lack of sacks produced. I'm more concerned with, how did the defense Utah State had a game plan. Their game plan was, we'd rather throw it into the void of space or straight into the dirt than have a turnover or have a sack. And that's not a bad plan against Alabama. You just don't make a mistake. Don't give Alabama 7 points on the defensive side. Okay. But the defense stepped up and wouldn't let them get a drive going, any drive going. And I thought that was a fantastic performance for Pete Golding's defense, a guy that is much maligned, of course, as you know, when it comes to Alabama. Bryce Young, doing Bryce Young things, 195 yards passing, 100 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing, counted for 6 touchdowns. Just an unbelievable performance, yet he still had a lot he could work on. He overthrew Jermaine Burton very clearly on what would have been a touchdown. He just flat overthrew him. Now, maybe last year Jameson Williams catches that pass. My argument would be that there's nobody on this team, no wide receiver yet, that is as talented as Jameson Williams or John Mechie for that matter. So while I think the group overall is better, this group of wide receivers, than last year, I would say the top end isn't quite as good just yet. Maybe Kobe Prentice comes around. He did a great job as a true freshman with 60 yards. Maybe Trayshawn Holden can keep it up. There's a guy, Trayshawn Holden, who had 3 touchdowns in the last Alabama scrimmage. He ended up with 2 touchdowns in this game. It was good to see Jason McClellan back on the field. This is a guy that got hurt in the Florida game last year, really hurt Alabama that he was out for the rest of the year after that Florida game. Probably the best pass-catching running back on the roster, at least until Jahmyr Gibbs got on campus. Jahmyr Gibbs had a nice 58-yard run, 93 yards on 9 carries. I thought he did a really good job. And the offensive line, they gave up a sack. They had a couple other miscues, but I thought the offensive line looked better. Again, I know we're not playing the 85 Bears, but I think Alabama did a pretty good job keeping Bryce Young clean. Bryce Young, on those long runs he had, that was pretty funny to watch. You don't expect to see him running. The only thing I can suspect is potentially last year Alabama was so worried about his possibly being injured that he was under some pretty strict orders not to run. I think now he's going to be able to run a little bit more. Not that they certainly would like to see him get hurt or anything, but I think they feel more confident in Jalen Milroe, who came in early in the second half. He did have an interception. He also had a touchdown. I thought he had control of the offense. I thought he did a pretty good job. He didn't set the world on fire, but he did some nice things. He gave me enough confidence in him to say, okay, if something happens to Bryce Young, all is not lost for this Alabama team in terms of hunting a national championship. Let's see. Defensively, again, going back, Will Anderson absolutely took the soul of a running back. He didn't have any sacks, but he destroyed a read option at one point. I know a lot of people have seen that highlight. Then, of course, you move over to Auburn. I think the talk of the town is obviously going to be the quarterback battle. Is it Finley? Is it Robbie Ashford? And I know a lot of people want Robbie Ashford out there, and I do not blame you. I get it. I certainly see that he has a higher ceiling than TJ Finley. I would also say that you might want to just relent to the coaches here. There is a reason TJ Finley is still going to be the starter. Yes, he had 2 bad interceptions Saturday. I don't think those were the end of the world. I think that he had a couple of bad reads, and that's going to be what you're going to get from TJ Finley. He's going to have some bad reads in a game. The question is, can he build up enough scores to make it where those aren't the game killers? And that's just going to be something that's going to have to be seen. While everybody is salivating over the potential of Robbie Ashford, let's also note he didn't win the job at Oregon last year. He was playing against a Mercer team that, frankly, Auburn would have better competition if they had just played a scrimmage. This Mercer team is not even D1. So pump the brakes a little bit. Yes, I thought he looked good coming around the corner. I know he's a great athlete. I got to call him at Hoover a couple of times. But I would caution saying that he needs to be the starter over Finley just right now. I would let San Jose State play out. San Jose State may actually be worse than Mercer. So I'd let this game play out, see how Finley handles it, and then go into the Penn State game and see what goes from there. And if Finley starts out poorly, then a lot of people will have a lot of confidence in Robbie Ashford. But I don't think you need to create such a mass hysteria of a quarterback controversy right now this early in the season. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, hopefully Brett Pritchard will be with me here on Sports Bliss Live.
What's the verdict?
Can't fix your heat pump. Need a new one.
Uh-oh. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking Daikin.
Call on Kevin Kill and Sunshine Heating and Air at 256-825-4849, Central Alabama's premier Daikin dealer.
So what's he thinking?
Oh, he's thinking Daikin.
Daikin, one of the top selling in the world.
Now I'm thinking Daikin.
Daikin. Comfort for life.
Russell Do-It Center and building supply stores have the tools and materials to get the job done right, whether you're a professional contractor or just a weekend do-it-yourselfer. With everyday customer conveniences like a drive-through lumberyard, price match promise, and our Best Rewards program, each of our 9 locations offer top brands and building materials like lumber, hardware, tools, paint, lawn and garden, and much more. Visit today and see what Russell Do-It Center and Building Supply can help you build tomorrow.
Don't be caught in a dirty vehicle. Lake Martin Mobile Detailing will have your vehicle or boat looking like brand new in no time, and you'll be back driving in style. They specialize in detailing, paint correction, gel coat restoration, and ceramic coating. Take it to the professionals at Lake Martin Mobile Detailing. Call them today at 256-794-2328 or stop by and see them at 702 McCarty Road in Dadeville. Mention this ad and receive $10 off. Lake Martin Mobile Detailing for your cleanest vehicles around.
Skag, the toughest name in lawnmowers. Unmatched quality and performance for over 3 decades. The clear choice, the best mower money can buy for work or at home. Top lawn care professionals and discerning homeowners know that Skag means productivity and reliability. Every Skag mower is proudly built right here in the USA. Don't settle for anything less than simply the best. Skag.
Satterfield Outdoor Living on Highway 280 in Alex City. Farmers and Merchants Bank of Dadeville is building a foundation of strength and trust in the entire Lake Martin community. With our modern branch in Dadeville and caring, attentive staff, we've established Farmers and Merchants Bank as a reliable friend to your banking needs. Whether it's just a savings or checking account or any commercial, auto, or real estate loan, Farmers has local decision-making to build a relationship with you and your needs. Farmers and Merchants Community Bank. Strength, service, community.
The heat is on, and nowhere gives you more than KiaofAuburn.com. First, we give you more for your trade-in. Just scan the code to find out how much. Next, the all-new Kia Sportage is here, and you'll be ready for anything. Then, at KiaofAuburn.com, you can custom order your new Kia just the way you want. Want more? Check out our selection of certified pre-owned Kias with 165-point inspection, complete protection plans, and so much more. Selection, price, trade-in value. You always get it all at Kia of Auburn. Kia of Auburn, where you're always number one.
In a word, it's chaos.
You'll have to see it to believe it. Whoever said that must have been talking about Talladega. It's a place where chaos mixes with speed, where a town turns into a city, and a weekend becomes a lifetime of memories. It's a tradition like no other.
What a wild finish.
And a track like no other. And after it's all over, you still don't believe it ever happened.
The winner at Talladega.
Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Welcome back into Sports Blitz Live, everybody. Again, sorry, flying solo right now. Brett is not available. We are just like everybody else. Early season, you have turnovers, you have miscues. We had some miscues tonight. There was supposed to be somebody else here, and they aren't able to make it. So here's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to do 2 more segments of this show just because it's been so much going on. I hate not to talk about this at all, and so much coming up with this next weekend. And then we're going to run a replay of the Auburn Blitz from earlier today. They did a great job on there. It was Randy and Andy. They did a great job recapping the Auburn game from this past weekend, talking a little bit about the quarterback situation, talking about some of the other stars from the Auburn game. So in light of that news, I think we'll spend a little bit more time talking about Alabama, maybe college football in general, and then just cut it to Auburn Blitz, and you'll get your fill of all things Auburn there. Okay, so I want to talk about this playoff situation first. On Friday, it was announced that there would be a 12-team playoff. It's supposed to start in 2026. It's going to take the 6 highest-ranked conference champions. So that includes of all different conferences. I think there are 10 total conferences. So not every conference champion will get in, which is something I desperately didn't want, and so that works out. I don't like the idea of automatic qualifiers because I don't want a team with 4 losses getting in the playoffs. And 3 losses is a bit much to me too. 2 losses I can live with, I suppose, but I don't want to water this thing down. And I know everybody let us talk about, well, what about the Cinderella? Well, I'm not a big fan of Cinderella. I mean, yes, it creates drama, but what it does is it devalues the regular season. So if in the NFL, when you have a team go 8-8 and that team wins the Super Bowl, really those other 16 games weren't a big deal. You were a 500 squad. You just got hot at the end. And everybody loves to tell you about, well, what about the team that gets hot in the end? Well, do the games at the beginning not mean as much? Because really, then why should you play them? Why not just condense it all? So that's always been my take, that I want this to be I want the regular season to remain meaningful. And I think going this route, it can do it. I'm talking myself into liking this. Not necessarily liking it, but living with it. If you take that 6 highest rated conference champs, I think in theory it's always going to be the Power 5 champs, and then probably the Group of 5 champ, maybe the Sun Belt champ, whatever, but probably the not Group of 5 necessarily, maybe the American Conference champ is what I should say. And I can live with that because, again, what that will probably end up with is, let's say it's Alabama from the SEC. Let's say it's USC from the Pac-12. Say it's, Big 12 is hard to say. Oklahoma State, Baylor, the Atlantic Coast Conference, maybe Clemson, Big 10, Ohio State. And then you throw in a Cincinnati or a Memphis from the American. And I think we can all live with that because Cincinnati's already made the playoffs. So that's a big positive. Then you take 6 other teams after that. Now, here's the other thing that I do love about this. Just because you're one of the 6 that gets in because you win your conference and you're one of the highest ranked 6 conference champs, it doesn't mean you're going to be ranked 1 through 6. So let's say Baylor wins the Big 12, but they win it at 9-3, and they're ranked number 10. Well, they may be seeded number 10. They may be seeded number 11 or 12 or number 9 or whatever. They don't have to be in that first 6. And I think that's crucial because it's not fair to reward mediocrity in this potential playoff. The other thing that's great about this, you have a bye week for the 4 top teams. So, again, in theory, the 4 top teams will always probably be your Big 10 champ, your SEC champ, ACC champ, and either Pac-12 or Big 12 champ, right? And then the other teams, the other 8 teams, the higher seeded 4 will host the respective 4 from the other side. So I can get behind that. I think that's kind of fun to have a game on campus. And then from that point forward, they will incorporate different sites and neutral fields and whatever, of course, giving selection importance to the teams that are ranked higher. Now, one other thing I'd like to see them do, let's say in game 1, seed 12 upseed seed 5. I would like to see, or let's say 11 upsets, that's a bad example. Let's say 11 upsets 6, and then everything else falls chalk. I would like to see the 11 seed have to play the number 1 seed versus playing the number 2 seed, which would be in the bracket, simply because I think if you're the 1 seed, you should get every advantage and the easiest path to the championship. And because this isn't like basketball where you have everybody in a pod and it's very difficult to move everybody all around the country, I think you can do it that way and make it so that the 1 seed always plays the lowest ranked seed left in the tournament. I think that'd be the best way to go. And then, of course, the 2 seed plays the second and on down the line. I think that'd be the best way to go. I think this will start in 2024 versus 2026. I know this is slated for 2026, but I think eventually there's just going to be too much money on the table for everybody. And I think everybody is kind of going to be antsy to get this done. This particular playoff scenario seems to make everybody just happy enough. There are a lot of people who want it to be 16 teams. There are a lot of people who want it to be all automatic qualifiers, all these other caveats. I think that's all silly. I preferably would have gone to just 8 teams if I was going to do this. But, it is what it is with 12. So I think this way there can be no more complaining about so-and-so got left out, this deserved team got left out. That's one thing I've always said, too. I'd rather leave 1 deserving team out than allow 3 non-deserving teams in. Because, I'd never want to cheapen this thing. We've already had a lot of problems finding 4 worthy opponents. And now we got to find 12. Again, I'm not going to talk myself out of it. It is what it is. It's going to happen. So we might as well learn to love it. And the other thing is, a lot of people think this will even the playing field. This will create more parity. I got bad news for them. It's going to be good for the Alabamas. It's going to be good for the Oklahomas. It's going to be good for the Ohio States. It's going to be good for the Georgias. Because now it's going to be really tough to keep Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson. It's going to be tough to keep those teams out because they're not going to start losing immediately. Yes, Alabama's going to tail off eventually. Florida State did. Miami did. Notre Dame did. Everybody's going to tail off eventually. But for the foreseeable future, you can bet Alabama's going to be right in the thick of that thing, as is Ohio State, as is Clemson, as is Georgia, as is Oklahoma. And you're just not going to get rid of those teams, especially when you look at the landscape of college football and you see how Georgia absolutely rattled Oregon's cage. I mean, just dismantled them. Poor Bo Nix. Poor Bo Nix. I mean, he goes to Oregon hoping to get a fresh start, and frankly, it looks like he hadn't improved one iota. I could make the argument he may have gotten worse. He had a better offensive line on Saturday than I would say he's had at any of these times at Auburn, and he still couldn't get anything done. He still made some bad interceptions through one interception that was just a great play by the defensive back in Malachi Starks The other interception was just awful. Threw no touchdowns. Really, you begin to wonder who he beat out at Oregon. So just you feel for the guy because, I mean, he was supposed to be Auburn's savior, and he's not going to end his career at Auburn, obviously a place that he grew up loving, and now he's at Oregon. And I would make the argument, you lose 49-0. I don't know that you can get in the championship hunt again. And then in this 12-team format, you'd be able to. And some people celebrate that. Some people think that's fine. You should be able to have one mistake. My idea is, okay, you should have a mistake. If you lose by a field goal, lose by 10 points. I get it. You lose 49-0. Should you really play for a national championship eventually? Should you even have that shot? And that's what I have a hard time wrapping my head around. Then, of course, we talked about LSU and FSU. How about Vandy going 2-0 now? They've got a big game with Wake Forest coming up this weekend. I think Vandy can win it. I know Wake Forest is getting their quarterback back, but I think Vandy can win that game. They look like a pretty doggone good team. They're one win away from surpassing the Vegas total that was put out for them preseason in number of wins. The over-under was 2.5. All they got to do is win one more game. Sneak up and win one more game anywhere. They've already got the over. That's pretty awesome for the Vanderbilt Commodores. Tennessee looked pretty good. Hendon Hooker, their offense was on point. They are very explosive. They've got the Johnny Majors Bowl coming up this weekend against Pittsburgh. That's going to be a lot of fun, 2:30 on ABC. Of course, Alabama and Texas, two of the blue bloods in college football, two of the biggest brands in college football. I'm going to be going to that game. I can't wait for it. And I want to talk a little bit about that and about what I discovered about Alabama and Texas as programs researching for my Locked On Bama podcast. We're going to be back in just a minute with more Sports Blitz Live.
Growing your business isn't just one thing. It's a million little things. Should you lease, rent, or own? How fast can you get that part? Does it fit the budget? That's what your local cat dealer is here for. With expert advice, flexible financing, and industry-leading equipment, you can get the job done day after day. Visit ThompsonCat.com, your compact equipment provider.
WOTM is the television provider for all Alabama High School Athletic Association championship events and special programs. WOTM is your home for the Super 7 football, state finals basketball, baseball and softball state championships, the AHSAA weekly show, and WOTM also produced the first ever football playoff show, Super 7 preview show, and reclassification reveal show. Your exclusive home for all things AHSAA is WOTM. Contact your local cable provider to request WOTM to your channel lineup.
Tails are wagging and pets are bragging about Zoom to Groom. Columbus, Phoenix City, and Smith Station. Zoom to Groom comes to you. It's mobile pet grooming from the comfort of your driveway. Schedule your appointment now online at zoomtogroom.net or by phone at 334-740-9909.
Russell Do-It Center and building supply stores have the tools and materials to get the job done right, whether you're a professional contractor or just a weekend do-it-yourselfer. With everyday customer conveniences like a drive-through lumberyard, price match promise, and our best rewards program, each of our 9 locations offer top brands and building materials like lumber, hardware, tools, paint, lawn and garden, and much more. Visit today and see what Russell Do-It Center and Building Supply can help you build tomorrow.
Why is Sarah Automotive Group on Highway 280 in Sylacauga the place for the best deals on your new ride? 3 compelling reasons. 1, with 3 full new car dealers on one lot, you get the best comparison and incentives on Fords, Hondas, and Nissans. Unmatched selection. 2, Sarah pays over market value for your trade to maintain East Central Alabama's best pre-owned vehicle selection and sales. And 3, the Sarah Automotive price won't be beat and delivers lower payments and huge value on your next buy. Shop online or on Highway 280 in Sylacauga.
Tails are wagging and pets are bragging about Zoom to Groom. Columbus, Phoenix City, and Smith Station. Zoom to Groom comes to you. It's mobile pet grooming from the comfort of your driveway. Schedule your appointment now online at zoomtogroom.net or by phone at 334-740-9909.